Heyo duckies, Andy Lip here, back with an advanced OBS tutorial, and you guys have been asking for it absolute time. How do I create this movement here when I'm filming, okay? As you guys know, I do all of my kind of videos in one take and just kind of go with it and do all the editing in OBS live. So I'm going to show you how I create that nice effect there so you can use it for whatever you want to use it for, whenever you pull a game up on stream or whatever. This is all up to you, alright? Put your rock over the stone, let's just get on with it. We've got the move transition plugin from Exeldro, which I get to create that actual motion using the move value filter and also move source filter. But then you'll also need the StreamFX one as well. This will allow you to use stuff like blur to get that kind of blurred effect as it zooms in and blur it back up as it zooms back in. Yeah, I've done that the wrong way around. You know what I mean though. So just hit download and get both of them installed. If you don't know how they work, I have got plenty of videos on that. The links will be in the description and I'll leave one just up there as well. Right, so I'm going to show you what I'm using in OBS right now. I've started a brand new clean fresh OBS to show you and make it really minimalistic for you to understand. So I've got scene 1 and scene 2 with absolutely nothing on, and they're the two that we're going to use as the kind of transition. So I've created a scene that has just got my display capture on because I'm just using nested scenes, which I definitely would recommend you getting into if you wanted to create these multi effects and stuff like that. And I've also got my webcam just here as well, which is on its own scene. So kind of see these scenes as sources, okay? That's the way that I usually see them as. It just means that I can add effects onto here without actually affecting the main source, which is really nice. So if you don't know, if you've never done nested scenes before, I've got a video on it, just check it out just up there. So scene 1, this is going to be kind of my main full screen where I'm talking to the camera. So I'm going to add a source. So in here, we're going to go and add a scene because we're going to add the webcam scene that we created earlier, and you'll see I'll pop up just here. We're also going to add another scene, which is going to be the display scene, okay? So they're both on here right now. The displays are in the foreground, which I don't want. I want me to be in the foreground because this is where I'm talking to the camera, like so. But one cool thing that I can do is, in fact, no, I'll do that at the end. So we're going to go to scene 2 now and set up scene 2. And we're going to do exactly the same thing because we want both of them things on it. So we want the display, which I'll add there, and then we want the webcam, so we add the webcam scene just there as well. So these both look exactly the same right now. And the only thing that is going to make these two different is when we're on scene 2, I want the webcam to be smaller like this, and maybe I want it cropping. So I'm going to hold down the Alt button and crop in just like so. I'm not going to add any rounded corners or anything like that just yet. You guys can check out my tutorials for that and add that in as well. It's completely up to you how you do it. We might do it at the end. I don't know. We'll see. I'm shooting this live, so we'll see. So now when I switch between the two, you can see we're just like that. So basically, we just need to add some movement now, don't we? So if I go to my scene transitions down here and go to add move, as you can see just there, I'm just going to call it move for now. And you'll see all this stuff's come up here. There's a lot to go into, okay, with this plugin. But the way to break it down is match the source. So basically, both of ours are exactly the same look, as you can see. So they're already matched, but if they have similar names and stuff like that, you can actually tick these boxes for whatever works for your setup. The switch point, again, it just depends where you want the transitions. This is for editing. Matched items, so things that have got the same name, this is what they're going to be doing and what sort of transition they can do. So again, play around with that. Things that are appearing, so things that weren't on the previous scene and they will be on the later scene, and disappearing, so the other way around. Things that are not on that scene, things that are on your current scene but won't be on the new one, you can see how they get zoomed out as well. Everything's fine for that because both of these are exactly the same. I've changed the duration to about 2000 milliseconds to make it look a little bit smoother, and now when I press scene 1, you'll see my camera zooms in just like that. Go back to scene 2, it zooms back out. So I know what you're going to ask. You're going to like, yeah, but your camera does that zoom effect as well. So let's jump to scene 1, shall we? And I'm just going to turn my webcam off for just a second. And I'm just going to resize the display. So it's a little bit bigger like that. So it looks really silly. Then I'm going to right click on it, go to transform, and then center to screen. You can use Control D if you like, and that'll bring it up like this. So turn my webcam back on. You're not going to notice any difference because that's me talking to full screen. And press scene 2, and you'll see the webcam zooms out as well as the screen. Vice versa. So then you're going to ask another question now, aren't you? Yeah, but you had that blur effect as well. So next up, we're going to add the blur. So I'm going to right click on the display. These two are linked, so I could click on the display just here if I wanted to. I can right click there and add the filters to that scene, or I can do it directly inside this scene. So I'm going to right click on display, go to filters, and we're going to add blur. So right at the top, you'll see blur. I'm going to press that and just press OK. If you don't see blur there, it means you've not installed StreamFX correctly, so go back and get that checked out, okay? So there's different types that you can use just here. Dual filtering is actually the most hardware, efficient. It's not very intensive on the hardware, but it goes in steps, as you can see just here. So for my YouTube video, since I don't do it a lot, I normally put the Gaussian blur on and have it just very naturally come in and then go out again. So as you can see just here, on one, it's completely fine, and then as you push it up, it gets more and more blurred. So I'm going to leave it on something like 25. If you go overboard and hammer it really high, you'll see my render time has gone through the roof there. So make sure less is more on this, okay, guys? So bringing it down to 25, you can see it's put the render time down really low again. So I'm actually got a terrible GPU. Well, not terrible, but I'm running an R9 290, so it's quite old. And if I can do it, you guys can definitely do it. So now we've got the blur. You're thinking, yeah, but when you change scene now, Andy, when you change scene to 2, your whole display is still blurred. But it looks cool, but nobody can see what you're doing. So now we need to add in the move filter. So we're going to press plus sign, go up to move value, and we're going to call this blur on, because this is when the blur's turned on. The filter we're going to connect to is blur. The setting we're going to change is size. And the value, we can press get value, but it should get it automatically, which was 25. If you remember rightly, in the blur, we've set it to 25, as you can see just there. Scrolling down here, I'm going to change the duration to 2 seconds, because that's how long our move transition is, as you can see. And we can mess about with the easing, it's completely up to you. And the start trigger, we can turn it to enabled, or you can just leave it on none, it works fine. So when I press that, nothing's going to happen because the blur is currently on. But if you guys are using the new version of OBS, 26.1 I think it was, or was it just 26? I can't remember. It feels like a lifetime ago. But we can now duplicate filters. So we can duplicate this one, go down to this and rename it to blur off. I'm going to turn the blur off this time. Duplicating the filter means we don't have to change any of the settings we put earlier, like the easing function and stuff like that. It's just done automatically. It makes it a lot easier. So we're going to change the value of the size to 1, because that means it's turned off. If we go to blur and scroll all the way down to the bottom, it changes it to 1. So let's put that back to 25. So if I press this blur off and watch this, you'll see it unblurs like that. Press blur on, it starts blurring back in again. You're like, yeah, but cool, you've done that, but how does that chain in with your transition? So this is where we need to use another piece of software that we can use like macros. So you could use the onboard touch portal, Stream Deck by using Nutty's noob commander. Definitely check that out. It's really useful if you're only just doing simple effects like this. And also Bikubot. So that's the one that I'm going to be using today. So I'm going to open up Bikubot, and this principle is the same for all of them. I'm going to create a new command. I'm just going to create this as a chat command really for this one, and I'm going to say zoom in, just like that. I'm going to just add an OBS filter. So we're going to change the filter visibility just here, and the filters that we're going to check are display, because that's the only one that we've got filters on right now. And the filter we're going to have on is we want to zoom in. So I want to make me big, so we want to turn the blur on for that, and that is going to turn the blur on as we go. So another thing that I could do as well is to make this a little bit simple for myself is press OBS again and add in a scene change. And I'm going to put a scene change first. So the scene I want to change to is scene 1, because that's when it goes full screen and it goes to me and the blur's on and everyone's happy. So I'm going to press save just now. And I'm going to go back and add another command, and I'm going to call this one zoom out. Just like so. I'm going to add the same things. So I'm going to add in a scene change, and we're going to go to scene 2, because that's the desktop scene. And then I'm going to add another filter visibility, the display, and we're going to do blur off, just like so. Press save, press back. And now if I go into my chat, just here, so let me open up my Twitch chat and go in here and type in ! zoom out. As you can see, it activates both them filters at once. As you can see there, press zoom in, just like so. And that is how to create that. Right, so now you guys are asking, yeah, but you've done all the blur, that looks cool, but how did you get the rounded corners? And you know what? I'll give it away. I'll do it. Give it away now. Name the artist, comments down below. I will give it away and tell you how it's done. It is quite complicated, so yeah, you might lose your mind. If you remember on scene 2, we had cropped this source like so. If you want to do rounded corners, that is a big no-no, okay? That is a big no-no, because if you put the rounded corners onto the scene, it is not going to register that you've added that crop to it as well. So we're going to uncrop what we created on scene 2. Going to go to our webcam scene. I'm going to start adding the rounded corners. So we're going to right-click on the scene, go to Filters, press Add, User Defined Shader. If you've not got this, this is the shader filter plugin for OBS. You can get it on the OBS forums. I'll leave a link in the description as well. I've done a video on it as well if you want to check that out, just up there. I'm going to call this rounded corners, just like so. We're going to load shader from text file, press browse, and I'm going to choose rounded rec 2. Open that up, and nothing will change, but we can change the corner radius now. So if I put it on 100, you can see it started adding these rounded corners. I'm going to add a border thickness as well of 20. You can change around with the color and the alpha. I'm going to put on this lovely blue color that I use for everything because I love it. I don't know why I like that color so much, and that's everything just there. And you're like, cool, wicked, done it. But if you go back to scene 1 now, you see how, because we're actually capturing that whole webcam scene, it's kept all the rounded corners, but now you're kind of not going to the edges of the screen. So you need to do a bit of jiggery pokery, and I'll show you some stuff with that just now. If we go back to the webcam scene, we need to add in a little animation. So similar to how we did it before, we go to Filters, we're going to add a Move Value filter. And we're going to call this Corners On. It's completely up to you what you name them. So we'll say corners on, and the filter we're going to attach to is the rounded corners filter, and this we're going to untick single setting because we want to do multiple settings at once. And I'm going to press get values, and it's going to get all the current values for what is happening on this filter right now. I'm going to change the duration again to 2000 because that's what our transition is. I'm going to press enable on here, and that is all ready to go. The next thing I need to do is duplicate it again and create one for it being off. I know you can do reverse as well, and we've spoke about it in the past, but in case you turn off OBS and stuff like that whilst we're in one scene, you can't undo, okay? So it's always good to do a filter for on and off. So same again, we've got the rounded corners, single setting, we need to make sure that's unticked, which it should do because you've duplicated it. And we can now edit the rounded corners for what we want. So we just basically want the corner radius to be 0, because then it goes back full screen again, okay? So we're going to go back to corners off. So I'm just going to type in 0 for the corner radius just there. As you can see, it is exactly the same because that's the only number that we've changed for the corner radius. Sometimes it does get a little bit sticky, the move value, but you can always put everything in manually. Just double check everything's exactly the same. So now if I turn corners on, you'll get that little animation. Corners off, you'll get that animation of them zooming out as well. So now we just need to combine that with the scene transition as well, okay? So we need to close that down, go back to Bikubot or whatever you're using. So the zoom in, we need to add that other filter visibility. So I'm going to add in another filter visibility, go to webcam scene, and we're going to add the corners off because we're zooming back into our face. That is all done. Press save. See how easy this is? I love Bikubot. It's so great. Go to OBS again, and going to change the visibility of the webcam scene and do corners on for when we're going into the scene. So press change, press done. And the keen viewers of you will notice if I try and do zoom out now to go to my other scene, we are still widescreen like so. Yeah, we've got all the corners on and everything like that. That looks cool, but we wanted it cropped. And if I try cropping this, you'll see the rounded corners don't persist. So this is where we need to do another little bit of trickery in OBS. So go back down to the web scene, just here. If I was to resize this and crop it, you can see how the corners persist now, right? And if I crop this side as well, and go back to our display scene, you'll see we're looking like that. Even though the whole scene's there, as you can see, we've got this transparent bit. So I can put this wherever I like. Okay, you see how this is going to work? I'm going to add in a move source now. So, on the webcam scene, sorry, you guys wanted to know how I do this, and this is, if there's an easier method out there, let me know, okay? If you guys want things to look cool, sometimes it gets a little bit complicated. So, I'm going to add in another filter. I'm going to add in the move source filter. So, if I press the plus sign, I'm going to move source. I'm going to say, we'll say what we're going to be doing with it. So, this is display on. Because then we know the display is on. I'm going to change the duration again to 2000. We're already going to be selecting the source webcam because that's the only one we've got in this scene. That's fine. Change all this if you want to. That's the easing functions. We're going to press get transform to make sure, but it should be exactly like that. The visibility we don't need to worry about. We can do all sorts of different cool things here. Start trigger. You can leave it on none. That's fine. It should be fine. It will work. So if I press that, nothing's going to change because that's what we've set it for. I'm going to duplicate it again. I'm going to change it to display off. Press OK. And now all we're going to do is change this filter by holding down Alt and undoing the crop that we've got there, making it back full screen. And we're going to just go down on this filter and press get transform. And you'll see all these numbers change just here. Well, they've reset back to 0 now because we're back to full screen. If I press display on, you'll see we'll move in, display off, move out. I actually want to change the display on as well. I'm going to crop the top as well a little bit. Why not? So it's just like so. I could crop the bottom as well if I wanted to. So now I've changed that. I need to press get transform again. Just like so, and you'll see the Y coordinate has changed as well as the crop at the end. So display off goes like that, display on, and then now we need to trigger that up inside Bikubot or whatever you're using as well. So zoom in when we want it to go full screen. We need to add in another filter change. So change filter visibility of the webcam scene, and we want to say the display is getting turned off. So we're going to choose display off. Just there, press save. Jump back again. I mean, with this as well, with Bikubot, I've actually done it a very long-winded way because you can put all these together, and I'll show you that at the end as another bonus. Brucey bonuses left, right, and center here. So we'll do zoom out, and we'll press OBS, and we're going to change the filter visibility, webcam scene, and then we're going to turn the display on because it's saying the display is coming on. Press save, jump out of there, and go to scene 1, and let's test if it works, shall we? So we've still got our corners on, so I'm going to press zoom in just to make sure that we reset back to where we were. So I'm full screen now, no rounded corners, this is all just me. I'm going to press zoom out, and you'll see we'll move down, and we've got rounded corners just there. And the nice thing about having it on a scene like this, it means I can put this anywhere. So if I put it to here, for example, and then change back to zoom in, like so, it'll always move to that position because we've only moved the scene. We haven't moved the actual source, which is lovely. So we'll do zoom out again, and you'll see we'll go down into that bottom left-hand corner. So you see how powerful this is, and obviously you've got the resizing options as well there. So if I wanted it to be really big on the side like so, that'll still persist if I do zoom in, just like that, and zoom out. So that's pretty much all there is to it to that. Let me show you the Brucey bonus on the Bikubot. If we go into zoom in, you can see we've got all this OBS control just here. We've got scene change and filter visibility. You can kind of see that it lists stuff together just here. So if I was to, I could put all these 3 commands into one. So if I close down this one, because I'm a little bit confused, I always get confused, it's just the way it is, and I've got 3 filter visibilities. So if I add the webcam scene to this one, and we want corners off, so if I go to corners off, it adds it to this list, so this all happens at the same time. So now I can delete that command. We're going to add this display one that I've got here for the webcam scene and the display off. So webcam scene, display off. That is going to be linked to that. I can close that one down. So now if I use zoom in, it'll still do everything exactly the same, but it just puts all them commands together so it's nice and clean. I'm going to do that same for the zoom out. So we're going to add the webcam scene. We're going to do corners on. Oh, Exeldro's hacking in. Exeldro's hacking in. And we're also going to do the webcam scene for display on as well. And that adds them both together, just like so. If I press save, go back, and I get I'm going to change the size here. As you can see, Exeldro's having a little bit of fun. I'm going to zoom in very angrily, and you can see it still all works together. Bikubot is awesome. Keep an eye out for it. 2021 is going to be the year for that bot, okay, guys? It is going to send you next level. So that is everything. And there he goes again. He's just always hacking in. Why does he always do it? Like, I'm just trying to shoot a video, and he's there just chatting in. Zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, zoom in. What a guy. So hopefully that's not been too dry. You guys wanted it, and I told you it would be complicated, but you can experiment with this and do whatever the hell you want, okay? But hopefully it just gives you a little bit of inspiration. Again, these videos take me ages to do, so if you please consider about being a patron, because I try and make my content as free for everybody. Well, I don't try, I do make it free for everybody, and it will help me out massively. So thank you for everyone's support so far. I've been really overwhelmed with what you guys are doing for me. It's incredible. So thank you so much. Put your rock in the stone, and I'll see you in the next one. I just want to say a huge thanks to all my patrons that help make this content full-time, make it free for you guys, and also a huge thanks to all my YouTube members. You guys are legends. Thank you so much for everything that you do for me and the community. Keep it up, guys.